After Soldier's death, Mom turns on his phone and sees message from unknown caller, "I'm pregnant." A grieving mother is surprised to discover a message from a strange contact on her late son's phone that reads, "I am pregnant." She dials the number to figure out what's going on and discovers something shocking. After his father Derek's death, Christopher Hunt was raised solely by his mother, Courtney. Derek was a wealthy businessman, and Courtney inherited all of his riches after his death, so naturally, she and Christopher didn't have to struggle for anything. The problems arose for Courtney only when Christopher declared that, unlike his father, he wanted to be a soldier. She wanted him to take over Derek's business, but the young man was determined to serve his nation, and she had to give in to his ambitions. At 23, Christopher finally left home to make his dreams come true, leaving Courtney alone and in tears. She missed him a lot and wished he would return soon. But unfortunately, only a few months later, her worst fears came true when she heard the doorbell one morning. When Courtney answered the door, she found 2 U.S. Army soldiers standing on the porch with Christopher's belongings and a folded U.S. flag. Even before they spoke, she knew her son was not coming back. Courtney was devastated after Christopher's death because he was the only one she had after Derek left them. She no longer had a desire to live. After all, who would she live for? Both her son and husband had left her. Christopher. "Oh, thank God you're alive. I was terrified that something bad had happened to you." Courtney sobbed herself to sleep every night after Christopher died, holding his belongings and cursing her fate for taking her son away from her. How could God take away her boy? If he wanted to take someone, he should have taken her rather than her child. One night, Courtney was sitting in Christopher's room, sifting through the stuff the soldiers had brought her when she came across their picture when he was 5 years old. She had no idea Christopher had taken that picture with him. "Oh, Chris," she whispered, tears streaming down her face like a waterfall. "Please come back. I don't want to live like this." Courtney clutched Christopher's belongings and cried every night. She spent the whole night rummaging through his things, and among them, she found Christopher's phone. She tried to turn it on, but the battery was dead, so she plugged it into the charger before going to bed that night. The next morning, she awoke to the sound of Christopher's phone vibrating and saw a slew of texts and missed call notifications from a contact named Love. Courtney sat up in bed, rubbing her eyes, puzzled. Unfortunately, Christopher's phone had a password, and she couldn't read the messages right away. She tried a few different combinations, but they didn't work. As a final option, she tried her birth date, and luckily, the phone unlocked. Her eyes welled up yet again to see her son had used her birth date as his password. Wiping her tears away, she clicked on a random message, and what she saw shocked her awake like nothing else. "Christopher, you're not going to believe it. I'm pregnant," read the message, and Courtney's eyes widened in confusion. Did Chris have a girlfriend that I wasn't aware of? Why didn't he tell me? She wondered as she went through the remaining texts one by one and realized that a woman had been texting him daily. She dialed the number right away to figure out who this mysterious woman in her son's life was, and when her call was answered, she heard a distressed female voice on the other end of the line. "Christopher. Oh, thank God you're alive. I was terrified that something bad had happened to you. Please promise me you won't disappear for months like this again." While the woman spoke without a pause, Courtney contemplated how to deliver the news to her that Christopher was no longer alive. After a brief gap and a deep breath, she finally spoke up. "I'm sorry, but this is Christopher's mother. My son," she began, her eyes welling up. "He's gone. I recently learned that their military base was attacked, and he died." "What? Oh no." The woman burst into tears on the call. "How could he just leave me like that? How could he do that?" She wouldn't stop crying. "Listen, I know it's major grief that Chris is no longer alive, she paused, both of us, but I still don't know anything about you. How do you know him?" The pregnant woman revealed something that left Courtney shocked. "I'm Emily, Mrs. Hunt," the woman replied, still sobbing. "And I'm Christopher's girlfriend. Good Lord. I still can't believe he's not coming back." Emily revealed that she was an orphan and worked as a waitress at a local bar. She met Christopher at the bar, and they were dating for 3 months before he joined the military. Christopher was hesitant to introduce her to Courtney because Emily was not from a wealthy or distinguished family, as Courtney wanted her future daughter-in-law to be. When Emily learned that she was pregnant, she called Christopher to inform him about it, but he never answered her calls. She left him several messages, but no replies came. As a result, he had no idea she was pregnant, and now she learned that he was no longer alive. Courtney remembered Christopher had mentioned that they occasionally had to disable the use of their private devices for security concerns, which is probably why he couldn't get back to Emily. She explained that to Emily and asked her to calm down. At the same time, Courtney felt terrible for the young woman and the little life growing inside her. The baby was Christopher's blood, which was more important to Courtney than anything else. She couldn't leave Emily and the baby in such anguish, so she decided to help. She asked Emily's address and proceeded to meet her. When she arrived, she saw Emily heavily pregnant, living in deplorable conditions in a little rented house all alone. She urged Emily to live with her, to which Emily was hesitant, but she eventually relented when Courtney insisted. "Thank you, Mrs. Hunt," Emily cried. I don't know how I would ever return your favor." "You don't need to," Courtney smiled back. "Just be happy. That's all I want from you." Courtney cared for Emily on her own, and when the baby boy arrived, she didn't miss a single opportunity to shower her love on him and be the best grandma. She also supported Emily and offered her a job in Derek's firm so that the young mother could provide for her baby boy. When they had to decide on a name for the baby, Courtney and Emily named him Chris in memory of his father, who was still very much alive in them. What can we learn from this story? Love and concern for family triumph over everything. Courtney wanted Christopher to marry someone rich, but none of that mattered when she found out about the baby growing inside Emily. It was then that Courtney realized that nothing was more valuable than family and their well-being, and she took Emily in. When God takes away something, He always gives something in return. Chris, Courtney, and Emily lost Christopher, but they found each other and blossomed into a lovely family.